I'm really excited to bring to you Robert Bruce. He is an author, he's a metaphysical researcher, and an expert in the field of out of body experiences. He's known for his experience and knowledge in the esoteric fields and is highly regarded for his successful curriculum of courses on a wide range of metaphysical topics, courses that he has designed himself through years of rigorous research, observation, and experimentation. So, Robert's joining us from down under. I'd like to say good day, Robert. Welcome to the show.
G'day, mate. How you going?
I'm doing very well. Let me just go ahead and say your accent is going to be a big hit with all of our listeners. They're going to love it.
I'll tone it down a bit.
No, I don't. Tone it up. Tone it up. Well, I guess before
I
we should
spent,
get started talking about this really complicated topic of astral projection and the astral body, I guess we should go ahead and talk about. My big question is, can I expect the same result as anybody else? For example, are the results going to vary from person to person, or is it pretty much the same result for everybody?
they vary from person to person. It depends a lot on how you could say your energy, body, and chakras are wired, and how much resistance you have, internal resistance to the process. But this is something that everybody does every time they sleep. But by and large, most people don't remember it. It's more difficult to remember an out of body experience than it is to remember a dream.
Yeah, so that's the trick to the out of body experience is actually working on and focusing on the memory. That's a big part of the process, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Exactly, and I've studied the process. I mean, the actual exit out of the body and the re-entry and what happens there for decades. In depth, thousands of OBEs, and I'm feeling it as I'm coming out and coming back in again. And it finally hit me many years ago before I wrote my first book on it called Astral Dynamics that what was happening is when you have an astral projection, you never ever leave your physical body while you still live. You generate an energy copy of yourself, and that copy is projected out of body. And if you're in an altered state of consciousness, a trance state, deeply relaxed and semi-paralyzed in bed, and you have an astral projection, there are two copies of you. There's the original and the copy, both of them thinking and gathering experience memories separately. And if your dream mind becomes active while this is happening, that's three copies of you operating simultaneously. Now you've only got one memory, one brain. So how does the
Right.
mind cope with three separate memory streams? It's a grammatical nightmare apart from anything, and it causes problems. But if you understand the process and what's happening, you can work with it or around it to maximise your chances of success.
Interesting. Now, in astral dynamics, one concept that was sort of new to me and threw me for a loop was the idea of the projectable double. The idea that there are various copies of myself. I found that to be very intriguing. Can we talk a little bit about the projectable double? Is this, in fact, the astral body itself or some intermediary version of the astral body?
It is the astral body. When you're trying to have an astral projection, now most people, it's very easy to do because when you do it every night, it's a natural process like falling asleep.
Hmm.
And let's say you sit down and you're relaxing and you try and have an astral projection, and fairly quickly you will produce a projectable double where the astral body, the energy copy, the astral body forms within you but doesn't separate. It's still aligned with the physical body mind, but it's inside of you. So it feels like you haven't gotten out. You've only got one mind at the time. And it's not until that actually projects out of body that you realize that it's a separate body. And of course, your mind goes with it if you remember the astral projection. So it feels like you, all of you, you could say your spirit, your soul, your mind, everything is leaving your body, leaving behind an empty body. But of course, that never happens. You stay inside your body. So typically, when a person tries to have an astral projection and fails, you've got the physical body side of it. Now, a failed astral projection involves laying down, doing a bit of energy work and a technique, and then you feel yourself coming out of your body, a falling sensation, a very rapid heartbeat, whole body vibrations, and you buzz out of your body. Now, that's a successful astral projection. And of course, at some point, you'll go back into your body and remember it. Now, the memory there comes solely from the projectable double. It leaves the body, comes back in again, and the memory downloads successfully. But what happens to most people is they go through that process and they start coming out of the body. They might get the rapid heartbeat, the vibrations, a falling sensation, and they might feel themselves buzzing out of their body, and then it stops cold. And there you are, laying awake in your bed and nothing's happened. And then you feel really, really tired, and you would normally say, oh, I failed again, and roll over on your side and go to sleep. Well, you think you roll over on your side. But what's actually happened here, you have successfully projected, because once the instant the mind split effect happens, when the projectable double actually separates from the physical body mind, the memories, how do you say, the experience memory leaves the body and is experiencing life separately in the astral dimension. But the physical body mind, at the moment of the mind split, everything ends. You could be halfway out of your body buzzing nicely, and then it just stops, because the astral body that's having the buzzing is continued out into the astral, leaving the physical body feeling as if it's failed. Everything just stops and it's laying there in bed. Now, you feel like you roll over on your side, maybe to go to sleep, but you're actually rolling over in your own skin. You could say it's your etheric body, your subtle body, rolling over and going to sleep there, but you're not actually physically moving because you're actually paralyzed, but you don't realize it at the time. So there's some tricky bits happen here, but once you understand the process, you can start working with it.
Very good. Very good. It seems to me that achieving this trance state, the perfect combination of an awake mind and a sleeping body, that seems pretty vital to the process. And I want to understand how to achieve that trance state, because I don't know, if most of the listeners are like me, they're probably going to fall completely asleep before any observable results happen.
Yeah, the trance state is an old term for it. It's an altered state of consciousness. They also call it like alpha, theta, different ways of describing it there. But it's a deeply relaxed state of body and mind. And it's very, very easy to get into. If you want to experiment, my best suggestion is next time you're going to sleep in bed, lay on your back with your elbows on the bed and your hands raised, with your forearms vertical, holding your hands off the bed, and allow yourself to fall asleep. And as you start falling asleep, of course, your hands will drop and jerk you back to being awake again. And that might happen dozens of times. But while that's happening, you will get to experience what it's like to be in an altered state of consciousness for a few seconds even. Because the trick is of being awake in an altered state of consciousness, it's like a razor's edge. It's like tightrope walking. You're holding yourself between being asleep and being awake. And it's a little bit tricky, but very natural. And with a little bit of practice, you will learn how to stay awake while your physical body falls to sleep.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's a pretty useful tip. I'm going to try that, actually. I think that'll work. We've all had that experience of falling asleep and then jerking awake again, and we never look at it as an altered it. That's pretty enlightening for me, actually, to think of it that way.
That experience there where you are laying in bed and you catch the sides, you feel a falling sensation, and you catch the
Right.
sides of the bed.
Right.
Now, that normally happens when you are overtired, if you're a bit sleep deprived, particularly if you've like skipped a night's sleep or you're jet lagged or something like that. That may happen
Frequently.
many times because one of the primary sensations of an astral projection is an intense falling sensation. Now, you also get a falling sensation when you're falling asleep. That's why they call it falling asleep, because a falling sensation is involved.
Makes
And
sense.
that will happen quite often when you're overtired. You catch the side of the bed because your body is so tired, it's trying to separate so it
Hmm.
can recharge. And so you're just slipping out of your body really quickly and experiencing the falling sensation, but your body is still quite awake, so it responds by catching the sides of the bed.
Well, Robert, let me ask you a quick question because I don't know. I'm like one of these people who likes to fall asleep with his iPod in, listening to an audiobook, or with the TV going. This sort of behavior, if I'm serious about out of body experiences, do I need to cut that sort of behavior out of my life, or is it okay to fall asleep listening to music or watching TV?
Well, it's probably a good idea to cut that back a little bit because
Sure.
you'll have a lot of stimulus in the room, and that will confuse the matter. It's not that big a deal. I mean, you can still do it, but it'll be distracting if you're trying to have an astral projection. With with your television, your radio, or the media, whatever you're doing there, you'll be habituated to that after doing it for
Okay.
many years, and so
Yes.
that's going to seem like normal. But that's probably a terrible way to have an astral projection because you don't need any distractions or emotional responses. You need peace and quiet to really sort of focus and relax and let go.
Makes perfect sense. What if I have some sort of a sleep disorder where, like insomnia? I'm sure that can probably, I need to get that sorted out as well before, doing some work like this. Would you agree with that,
Yes.
or do you think that won't get in the way?
Well, insomnia can get in the way, but if you are insomniac, then learning how to get into an altered state is like you really need to do that because if you're going to not be able to sleep, if you can put yourself into an altered state of consciousness, now your mind stays awake and you're still thinking, your physical body goes to sleep, so you're going to get physical rest. You're
Huh.
going to get a sleep. The dream mind will activate. You're going to get REM sleep, rapid eye movement, which happens when you're dreaming. That's
Right.
essential for good health. If you don't get that, your mind turns to mush in a few days. So, learning how to get into an altered state of consciousness is a big help if you're an insomniac.
Okay. So in that sense, it'll accidentally help me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
to recognize the altered state of consciousness. Of course, it'll probably be much safer for myself if I realize that's what I'm doing, as opposed to just doing it accidentally. For example.
Yeah, exactly. I spend probably half the night when I go to bed awake. I put myself into an altered state. I've done so much of this over the years that it only takes me a few seconds to get into an altered state. And so I put my body to sleep. And I mean, it'll even snore occasionally and that, but I'm wide awake. I'm doing distance healing. I'm having OBEs. I'm having clairvoyance, visions and things happening. And I do a lot of distance healing and that, so I make good use of the time. But my physical body's asleep. It gets plenty of rest.
Interesting. Okay. Very, very interesting. No, you're not the first. A lot of highly respected minds and a lot of disciplines, psychologists, doctors, a lot of scientists. There's something about the moment right before sleep, that moment of fringe consciousness, when you're about to fall asleep or when you're about to wake up. What is it about that moment that's so magical, so conducive to the creativity? What is it about that time of the day and the cycle of sleep?
It's kind of like it's magic hour or the witching hour, whatever you want to call it.
Huh.
At that stage there, you are, whether you're falling asleep and you're still awake or whether you're waking up, your body is in an altered state of consciousness. Now, this is
Okay.
particularly strong when you're waking up. In that couple of seconds while you're waking up, you're coming from quite a deep altered state of consciousness where you will be having visions and maybe even hearing things. You could be having a conversation at the time while you're waking up, and all kinds of interesting things happening. And just for a couple of seconds, you get to experience that with your conscious mind. So you remember it, because everything, including dreams and the mind split effect and the issues with memory, of remembering OBEs, also applies to meditation and existing in an altered state. I mean, it's very, very common. If you have a group of people, or if you do it singly, if you're having a meditation session and maybe you're following a CD or something, a guided meditation, but at some point during the meditation there, you will feel a tingling rush of energy. It'll quickly, in a split second, go up your legs and then up your back. And you'll feel something big is going to happen. It's, whoa, something's happening. And then it will stop. And you think, oh, I don't know what that was. And, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, you're continuing your meditation. And you feel a tingling rush come up you again. And you think, oh, something big's happening. This is cool. And it stops again. But what you don't realize here is the first tingling body rush was an astral projection exit out of body. The second tingling rush was the re-entry into your body. Now, the astral projected that 10 minutes you're out of your body, you've lost the memory download because your astral body was out experiencing independently and doing all kinds of interesting things. And then it comes back, but you lose the memory of it. Just like you lose dream memories. I mean, how many times do you wake up in the morning and you've had an amazing dream? You've had a 2-hour movie you've been involved with. Really, really interesting. And you say, wow, that was an incredible dream. I'll never forget that. Forget what? It's gone. It just disappears.
Happens all too
But
often.
here's the interesting thing with that sort of memory. The memory's gone, but you remember that you had a really cool memory. And you know it's gone. You know you had it. And then it comes back. And you say, oh, it's back. Oh, wow, that's really, really cool. And then it goes again. You've lost it. But twice you remember you've had this really, really cool dream experience, memory, and then it's gone again. It's like a little cloud hanging over your head. Therein lies the key to remembering astral projection, because keeping a dream journal, learning how to do dream recall exercises, and writing down a couple of key words about the dream so you've got a link to it and association with that memory. For example, if that dream, amazing dream you had, if you wrote down 1 or 2 keywords that related to it, and that's all you do. So the instant you wake up, you grab a keyword out of it and you might say water skiing, okay? And you verbalize that as soon as you wake up. You say water skiing, and then you write it down quickly with a pad that's by your bed or on your bed. And when the memory goes, all you got to do is look at that key word at water skiing, and bang, it all comes back. The association triggers a memory. You wouldn't believe how often, probably once a fortnight here, once every 2 weeks, I will wake up in the morning and I come out, start making coffee, and I see a note on the counter, and I look at it and there's this garbled writing, because I've been half asleep when I wrote it. And I hold it upside down, turn it this way and that, try and decipher it. And then I finally make out the writing and a couple of key words, and bang, the entire experience comes back. And it may be an astral experience, something, or a dream, or something interesting happened with just 1 or 2 key words to connect with that memory, and the association pulls it back up again. It's like accessing a file on a hard drive.
Meanwhile, if you had not written those keywords down, then you would have missed out on that moment of recall, that moment of memory. You would have missed out on that more than likely.
Yeah, it's gone. I mean, also, when you've had a really cool dream, I mean, you may, several hours later during the day, you will find the dream comes back to you because something on the radio, something somebody says, you might see a picture of somebody water skiing, and all of a sudden you see that, and bang, the memory comes back. You see something triggers an association there in your memory, and it recalls the memory, and bang, it pops up in your head again. You say, oh, wow, just remember a dream I had last night. You may have even had this dream a couple of nights before, but the memory is there, but it's coded. We don't have like a direct file path to it. Like when you're in the physical world and awake, everything is recorded and stored differently. And we have like this progressive memory, which is, fairly easy to remember. I mean, you go back to what you did this morning and, what happened at breakfast and that and during the day, and you can pretty well remember most of it. But we have a lot of associations there, and the memory is stored differently. So what you need to do is to train yourself, which is quite easy, to start recalling dream memories and out-of-body experience memories. And then your body will become entrained to storing those, because the default setting for human beings is to not remember out-of-body experiences. For some reason, your higher self, in the higher aspects of you, do not consider astral projection memories to be worth keeping. Or it's trying to protect us from the complexities that causes in life.
Right. So it could be an evolutionary consequence of the age of reason, or it could be a defense mechanism of the body. One of the two.
It is a bit. I mean, if you look at every human being that's born has full psychic abilities, 100% psychic abilities. I mean, they're clairvoyant, they're clairaudient. All psychic abilities work 100% because everybody has chakras, and the chakras are responsible mainly for the psychic abilities, and there's lots of them. But when you're born, these are closed down and deactivated by fault. The default setting for a human being is deactivated chakras, and this is done to keep us focused here in the physical world, in the here and now. This is an evolutionary advantage. I mean, we would not want to be seeing, it sounds cool, but, having clairvoyant visions all the time, hearing the voices of spirits and relatives in the spirit world and that all the time, incredibly ungrounding. And we have a name for that in society. It's called schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the default setting is very wise, keeps us focused in the physical world where we need to be. So a dinosaur doesn't eat your body while you're having a vision or something like that. But for some people, of course, it's we're interested in, we're led to explore that side of life, and then we start stepping into the greater reality.
Well, speaking of memory and especially as it pertains to cultivating the astral body, you have a very unique take on visualization. In fact, your idea and concept of visualization it isn't wholly visual. The visual sense encompasses only a fraction of your concept of visualization. Could you talk about that a little bit and how that plays into memory recall? And I think you call it tactile imaging, in fact.
Yeah. One of my greatest discoveries in life which has helped an enormous amount of people in the world, is the true explanation for what visualization is. Now, if you go to any group of people which is doing visualization exercises everywhere, everybody does it in the whole spiritual New Age sort of movement. Every exercise and energy work exercise is all based on visualization, because 150 or so years ago, when a lot of Eastern knowledge was brought to the West by people like Madame Blavatsky and it was translated into English, the only word we have in the English language which explained how to move energy was visualization. So that was used in the translations for any reference to moving energy, was visualization. So what happens here, if you're sitting in a led meditation and the meditation instructs you to visualize a ball of energy moving up your legs, or for example, and most people, probably 75% of people, just visualize it. Now, Visualization is imagination. Imagination is visualization. They're one and the same. Now, probably 75% of people have a problem with visualization. They can't do it. They find they struggle to keep up with it because they believe they have to see something like a little TV set in the mind's eye. So they close their eyes and want to visualize this ball of energy. They believe they should see it because of the way it's described by their teachers. Now, this is compounded if their teachers are clairvoyant and they actually see something visually in their mind's eye when they are visualizing. And then if you take that one step further and you assume that because you can see it, everybody else can see what they're visualizing in their mind's eye. And of course, that is not the case. I discovered this several years ago, and I went up to I went to my sister Ginny. I said, "Hey, Ginny, do you know when most people close their eyes, they don't see anything, it's just all black?" And she said, "What? I don't believe you." Because, we're both clairvoyant, so we never see blackness. But most people do. But now, when you fantasize, when you imagine something, you can have a fantasy which is so detailed, you can see brilliant colors and, every hair on a person's head, vivid smells, sights, sounds. It's incredibly detailed. A normal, non-sighted, non-visual fantasy and imagination exercise. But the way it is described, though, when you're doing energy work exercises and that, is very, very misleading. Now, taking that one step further, I discovered that when to do any kind of energy work or body work on your body, you need to connect to the tactile senses, to the physical body. You need to kinesthetically connect with the body. So if you visualize a ball of energy moving up your legs and you're just visualizing that in your mind's eye and you're seeing a picture of that, if you're not connecting to the physical body kinesthetically, it won't work, it won't do anything. But if you kinesthetically connect to the body and you move that ball of energy up your legs, it will excite all the nerves in those legs, your physical body's nerves, with a lot of bioelectrical activity. And beneath the surface of the physical nerves and that bioelectrical activity, it directly impacts the subtle energy bodies beneath the surface of the physical body. So you actually disturb and you can manipulate the substance of your energy body. And if you apply that method to your chakras, you will activate them. It's much, much easier to work on the energy body. And this is the original purpose of the energy work and that comes from the West, because in the native languages, it is described much, much better. So people over there get it. They connect kinesthetically to the body, and of course it works. But over here, and I've done this to dozens of teachers in their groups, and I've explained this to them, and they said, no, it's a given. Everybody gets that. Everybody understands that. And I stand up and I ask the group, and then there's about 75% of the hands go up. Well, I've always had a problem with energy work and the visualization, and it's like 5 minutes instruction and everybody is on an even footing and everybody can do the work. And from this, I developed a simple system of energy work I call body awareness tactile imaging. There's a section of that in all of my books and on my websites, astraldynamics.com and .org. And it's very, very easy to learn. It takes an average about 3 minutes to 4 minutes to learn the system, the basics of the system, how to move energy through your body. And once you've got that, you're off. Your visualization will then, your imagination will then automatically connect with your physical body. And when you're visualizing anything, you're connecting with it. So you're moving energy. It's very, very simple.
Well, we're all accustomed to the normal chakras, but one thing that you raised my awareness on was that there are actually like sub chakras, right?
Yep.
As well.
Yep.
Fascinating stuff. Now, once we start to make to move into the astral planes, I read about a fascinating sort of intermediary place that reminded me for all the world about about purgatory. In fact, you referred to it as the real time zone. We're approaching our commercial time here in a bit, so it probably would be a better idea to get into it after the commercial. But I want to just say that this was definitely something that I had never heard of before in my life, the real time zone. And it is possible to meet other astral travelers in that intermediary
Yep.
zone as well, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Now, the real time zone, I created the term for that because there was a gap between the astral planes and the physical reality which we're in right now. Because when you project out, you are usually, most people are first in, you are in the real time zone, which is where reality happens. You are like a ghost in the real world. As, you know, normal life is going on around you, you're floating around like a ghost. Now, that's technically at the bottom, at the lowest end of the astral planes, if you're using an up and down, grade on that there. But of course, the lower astral planes is supposed to be like purgatory, a place of the damned, where all the low life spirits are hanging out. But it's not that case at all.
Ah,
The real time zone is just the physical, unless the physical world is the place of the damned, we're already living in it. I mean, there is a
right,
case for that.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's well, it was
but
just
that
that
is, yeah, that is just the first level of being in the astral dimension, and that's separate from the astral planes.
right, sort of just sort of an in between place. I thought it
Yeah,
just very
yeah.
interesting that there would be that sort of a celestial vestibule, that a waiting area, as it were. Even though you don't necessarily have to wait there, that's not really what it's
No,
designed for.
most people only spend a few seconds there. It depends on how your chakras are wired. There are two components to an astral projection. There is your astral body. A pure astral projection is a projection from the flesh of your body. Now, that is demonstratable. And if you have a pure astral projection, you're stuck in the real time zone, and
Well, I
you're,
tell you what, Robert. Let me
you're
ask you to hold
it's
that
like,
thought, my friend. We got to
okay,
pay the bills real fast, and we'll pick right up where we left off when we get back. Okay?
okay.
A new era in psychic services has begun. PsychicAccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at PsychicAccess.com.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Robert, we were talking about the real time zone and how it relates to astral projection, the astral body itself. And in your book, Astral Dynamics, you include a really cool illustration of what happens to the hands sometimes in the real time zone, the melting hands effect during the out of body experience. And this is happening to the real time subtle body. Now, this is a version of the projectable double. Am I right or wrong on that?
It is, it is. This is one of the few constant factors of you could say, astral projection in general, that if you look at your hands, they will instantly start to melt, and in about 3 seconds, they will melt down to little. Imagine if your hands are made of like wax, and you put them under a powerful heat lamp, and in 3 seconds they just melt away, and you've got stumpy wrists then. If you look away and look back again, your hands are back, and they'll melt again. It's one of the few constants, because as soon as you step out of the physical dimension, you step into the astral zone or any of the astral plane levels, or into the spirit world. This also applies when you're dead. And I think it's built into the fabric of the subtle dimensions there, that as soon as you step out of the physical, you will start encountering anomalies. And anomalies are everywhere, whether you're in the real-time zone. You look over your kitchen and you find it's back to front. You'll find the stove is on the other side of the room, or one of your windows is out of place. And in the astral dimension and in dreams as well, you'll find if you go to sign a piece of paper, your pen will run out of ink after the first word. It's another consistent factor. All these anomalies. If you're in the any of the astral zones and you don't know you're there, and let's say you're having a beer and you've got a big mug of beer there and a bagel, and you take a big swig out of your beer and you look away and you look back again a split second later and your beer's full again. Now, you don't realise that you've died. All of a sudden something happened, a piano fell on your head or something, and you take a bite out of your bagel and look away and you look back and it's whole again. I mean, this is the afterlife. There's free beer and bagels. How bad can it be?
That thought was just going through my mind, Robert. I was like, well, that would be the biggest red flag there. If I had a beer that replenished itself, I'd be like, well, I know I must have gotten in a car crash on the way over here or something.
Yeah. Well, only if you know that. But I mean, this is a fail-safe device. It doesn't matter what you believe in, whatever your religious beliefs are or non-beliefs. Doesn't matter what you have. After you die, eventually the anomalies will get to you, and you will start focusing on them. And you will start looking at your beer or your cup of coffee out of the corner of your eye. You've had a drink out of it, and you're watching it as you put it down, and you'll say, aha, it filled up again. You start focusing on the anomalies. And as soon as you start to focus on the anomalies, that will cause you to shift to a higher level, which will be more understandable. There'll still be anomalies there, constantly reminding you, but it doesn't matter what your beliefs are or non-beliefs. Eventually you will get the idea through to you that you are no longer in normal physical reality. You can't avoid it. The anomalies make sure you will eventually get it.
It's like that movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray, where every day is the exact same, and the focus of the movie is in changing, correcting past mistakes. But there's that point in the movie where Bill Murray's character realizes that, hey, I'm not in Kansas anymore. Something's something's wrong here. Something's abnormal. That's sort of what you're talking about as far as an anomaly is concerned, right?
Yeah, that's one of my favourite movies too. I love that. I watched
because
didn't
the tenor of the movie change after that? Didn't he change? He reached a higher level himself after that, didn't he? Once he had that realization.
Yeah, he did. Now that's a drastic, very large anomaly. Anomalies are normally little things, but yeah, it basically is. Now that is very much like being dead in the spirit worlds. I mean, I visit the spirit worlds quite often. I've got family there. And but it's very much like that. People live parts of their lives over and over again until they come to terms with them, and then they kind of settle down usually in a seaside village somewhere where it's kind of like a heavenly sort of a realm where all of their family they've lost and loved is there, and all their friends, and even the dogs and cats are there, because dogs and cats also survive death. And dogs and cats astral project, by the way. And so do even hamsters. As far as I can make out, every living thing astral projects.
So that means every creature has an astral body.
Yeah, as far as I can see. Now, I've observed, because I do so much meditation and I'm clairvoyant, and when I'm meditating, I get astral sight, which means I can see into the real-time zone and even some of the astral dimensions while I'm meditating clearly through my closed eyelids. And I've often observed my children astral projecting, babies, dogs, cats. I often have a dog asleep in the room with me, and I watch it. It's like this pale shape, the shape of the dog, will form over it and come loose a little bit and expand, and then it will float up out of the dog, and then the dog will go woof and go running off or running around the room. come and jump on my lap. And yeah, it's really quite interesting. But I think everything seems to astral project. I mean, I've seen dogs and cats and children. I've seen a hamster do it that I was holding in my hands, and he fell asleep there, and I watched him project and connect him with his memories and that. And but yeah, and horses as well. I've done it with horses as well.
Ah, very interesting.
They're quite evolved, yeah. But I mean, if everything does it, there must be a natural purpose to it. You know, and it happens all the time. So, and I think the natural purpose is that when you sleep, you astral project out. It's almost like you could say the spiritual part of you needs to reconnect with its roots in the spiritual dimensions where we come from.
Truly, as Shakespeare said, "Death, where is thy sting?" I keep thinking of all these different planes of existence, the real time zone, the astral plane, all these various planes of existence, and I know a lot of us have lost people who are close to us, and as I listen to you talk about how the astral body would disengage from the physical body, and I can't help but be reminded or ask myself, I wonder if death is like this when the soul or the spirit or what have you, the subtle energy bodies, when they release from the body, it seems to me like it would be a very similar process almost.
It is not just similar, it's identical. When you have an astral projection, you are, for all intents and purposes, experiencing what it's like to die. Now, I've observed people while they died, and I've followed the afterlife scenario from people that have died, including my mother and my father, and even some pet dogs we've had. And I've observed their afterlife experience. There are similarities. I mean, a dog's afterlife experience is simpler, much more simplified than the humans, because they have a simpler mind. But they do have an afterlife process which is very similar. And well, put it this way. If somebody dropped an atomic bomb on your head right now, and somebody dropped one on my head at exactly the same time, right now, while we're talking here now, and we both disintegrated, we'd probably both go, well, what was that? Did you feel that tremor in the force? And mind you, we're still talking on the computer here, right?
Right.
And
right.
Our conversation would go on. And we'd start talking, and maybe it would go on for a long time. We could be talking for several hours or more, or several days. And at some point we'll say, wow, we've been talking for a long time. You fancy a cup of coffee? Okay, let's go get a cup of coffee. And we'd both stand up, and my head would appear over the top of your computer screen as I stand up. Or yours would appear over mine. And we would go and find a kitchen, which might be your kitchen, it might be mine, it might be part my kitchen, part yours, an anomaly there. We'd have a cup of coffee and go wandering off. And at some point, now, if we didn't know what I know, I would catch on really quickly. But most people wouldn't. It could be several weeks, months, or even years before a person catches on that they're no longer in physical reality. They must have died. But if you don't know about it, but I mean, death is nothing to be afraid of. Actually, the dying part sucks, that can be painful. Who wants that? But once you're dead,
mental image of death.
It's really crazy.
When I personify death, I tend to think of him as as an usher in a theater, just showing us which theater to move on to next. And boom, his interaction, it comes in and out of our life just like that, snap of a finger. And it's really what comes before and after the event that counts the most, it seems here.
It does. I mean, when you die, your body, your spirit body, which is basically just an enhanced astral body, because a lot more of your energy is left the physical body when it's defunct. Normally, when you have a projected double comes out of your body, your astral body, there's a part of your energy comes out. But when your physical body dies, there's a lot more, and that's why a near-death experience is like so vivid. When somebody has a near-death experience there, because a lot more energy comes out temporarily, and then it gets yanked back in again, kicking and screaming. But when you die, your physical body feels normal. I mean, if you bite your finger, ow, it hurts. You know, you've got
Right.
pleasure and pain. And in the spirit world, you feel physical. You feel like a normal physical body. And other people you meet, maybe other deceased spirits and that, you can touch them, and it feels just like a normal human being does. I mean, in the spirit world, you can kiss and cuddle a loved one. You can have a meal. You can go and see a movie you haven't seen before. You can read a book even. The anomalies of you often get like astral dyslexia, we call it. In the astral, if you try and read something, you read the first line or two and then it all jumbles up like you're dyslexic. The letters move. It's very much like being dyslexic, but that's a lot more stable. That part in the when you're dead, but it's like, and there's no special place for it. I mean, suicides fare no differently to anybody else.
Right.
I mean, they have a lot more baggage because they've killed themselves.
Right.
So they often have a darker afterlife experience because they're processing a lot more pain, and they will create different scenarios around themselves until they process those events that are troubling them, which have driven them to suicide, until they get over it. But then they continue on with the afterlife just like anybody else. But it really is, it's not anything to be afraid of.
Well, let me ask you this. There's a school of thought, or I've read the astral body as described before as basically, let me see if I can spell it out as simply as possible here. There's one school of thought that says astral material is comprised of, they say that thoughts have actual mass, that have chemical and electrical components, and that the accumulation of thoughts and the masses that they represent, that these form an astral body, and therefore modifying the astral body depends on modifying one's thought. That you can improve the health of the astral body by improving the quality of your thoughts, etc. The theory goes that these accumulated thoughts, they mass together to form, they organize the same way that cells in the human body do. They form tissues, they form organs of the astral body, etc. What do you think about this sort of piecemeal composition of the astral body by thoughts? What's your opinion on that?
Well, your astral body is, you could say, the template upon what your physical body is based. So the condition of your astral body will have an impact upon how your physical body is. Now, if you can astral project, you can do astral self-healing, healing on your own astral body, which will flow on into your physical body. So that is a way to heal your own physical body, to work on the astral body, if you have the capability of getting out. But, yeah, you could say it's composed of thought because, I mean, in that sense, you are what you think. I mean, if you have the ability in the mind, if you get out of your body into the astral, if you could hold the shape in your mind, the body image of a tiger from head to tail, you would turn into a tiger. If you could hold the image of being a Klingon, you would turn into a Klingon. As long as you can hold that image will remain, and you will look like that to another astral projector or clairvoyant sees you. They will see a Klingon in the room and say, where did that Klingon come from? Everybody recognises the Klingon these days, or tiger, but that's called shape-shifting. And a lot of magicians and witches and that will actually shape-shift like that to hide their identity. So it's, I'm getting a bit lost here, but
well, it's really a sprawling topic. We could probably talk about this for hours and hours. Unfortunately, we're coming to the final of our show here now. If you in the audience have been stimulated by all of this and you want more, like myself, I definitely want more. You can find Robert at www.astraldynamics.com, also www.astraldynamics.org. And what sorts of what can I find on your website? You have courses and things like that available, correct?
Yeah, we've got courses available, video and DVD courses on manifestation and self-healing, Astral Projection Mastery, and a new one coming up in a few weeks called basically How to Raise Your Kundalini, which is something I've also done many, many years ago. And yeah, that's a fascinating topic in itself. And we have another one coming up later this year called Defense Against the Dark Arts.
Ah, fascinating. Fascinating stuff. The Kundalini, is that related to astral energy somehow, or is it a different kettle of fish altogether?
It is related to astral. Everything is related to astral energy. Everything connects together. Astral projection, clairvoyance, Kundalini, it all relates to the human energy body, and the human physical body, of course, is related to that as well. So everything is connected in that sense.
Very, very, very good stuff. I cannot recommend Astral Dynamics highly enough. If you definitely get out to Amazon.com and pick up a copy of this book. The illustrations, I love the illustrations in this book. They look as if they've been sketched with pencil, but they're very realistic. Absolutely good stuff there. So, Robert, I really want to thank you for showing up here on our show again. Please go see him at astraldynamics.com or astraldynamics.org. You will be very glad that you did. Robert, thank you very much.
You're most welcome. I'll see you again sometime.
I hope so, mate. You have a good one.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers, get access, psychic access, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.